My name is, I'm a Jim Friel everywhere else, apart from Croy, when I'm James Friel. And always will be James Friel. I mean, people actually asked, "Oh, you're in court in Glasgow, you'll know Jim Friel." And this particular one, it was reported back to me, said, it was to another lawyer, "Jim Friel? In Croy we call him James." He says, "I felt this size, you know." He says, "In Croy we call him James." And it's funny because in law I'm known as Jim Friel, and everywhere else I'm known as Jim Friel, but in Croy I'm James.
and I'm guessing as I stay in Croy now, I should probably call you James for fear of being driven out. And what years were you in Blairs?
I went to Blairs in 1956, and I went into second year. I had been in St Ninian's Kirkintilloch for first year secondary schooling. Went to Blairs in 56 and left Blairs in 61.
In 61, okay. And just for the tape, my name's George Houston. I was a student at Blairs from 1981 until closure in 1986. And today's date is the 28th of January 2023, and we're here in Holy Cross Parish in Cross Hill, with thanks to Monsignor Hugh, another fine Croy boy as well, for allowing us to use his facilities. And just to confirm, we're in a legal environment here, and you'll know, just confirmation that you're happy for this interview to be aired to the Blairs family. I guess the best way to start is, how did you end up in Blairs? What's the story that took you to Blairs?
Right. Well, I expressed, I don't know how a wee boy would say this, but I expressed a desire to become a priest to parents at home, and I was then taken by, I think, mother and father to see the parish priest and express the same views again to him, which I did, and I later learned that two other people had expressed similar views, one being Tommy Bone, who was mentioned earlier, and the other being John McLaren. That was obviously be registered wherever it was registered, and we were wheeled in one Saturday morning, as I recall, to St Aloysius for an entrance exam, and none of us had cars, so we were also wheeled in to Park Circus to see the Archbishop Donald Campbell it was at that time, and we were wheeled in there. I think the parish priest must have taken us in, and we were spoken to by the Archbishop, and thereafter wheels obviously started moving, and we started to get stuff about Blairs and what we had to bring and what we had and whether we had been accepted and so on. And that took me to Blairs. That's all the interviews I can remember, was seeing the parish priest and then being taken in to the Park Circus to see Archbishop Campbell, and then the entrance exam, and it was just one Saturday morning, if I recall it properly, when we got something like English and maths, and it was only a morning, and that was it.
So you get through the process, and then you're told you're successful, and then you arrive on the doorstep of Blairs. What was your first thoughts when you saw the place?
When the size of the place took me aback, I must confess, that it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting a much more, I suppose, a wee boy would think, a much more homely sort of place, a small place, much smaller than this building that took me back a bit. Slightly overawed, I would say, at that stage, at the sheer size of the place. And the fact that I was told that all of these grounds were Blairs grounds, that took me aback a bit too. But other than that, I was overawed by the sheer size of the place. I wasn't frightened in any way at all, as I call it. And at that stage, because we had just come up on the train, so we would go from Croy and we went by bus from, as I would say in Croy, the middle corner, up to Kindoret. We got off the bus at Kindoret, and then we got the top road bus into Buchanan Street bus station in Glasgow, which probably doesn't exist now, and wandered up with our cases to Buchanan Street train station, and there was a throng of people, and I realised then there were lots of people, and as I recall it, there must have been carriages reserved for us, because they were all Blairs people once we got on the train. And the one abiding memory, and I don't say it in any way, but David, now he became a deacon, David Forsyth. I think he was up in Dundee way eventually. But he seemed loud and brash, you know, he was always shouting the odds. Yeah. In a friendly way, you know. And that was about it.
And did the three of you go? Were the three of you successful in the
three of us went, and the three of us, Tommy and John were both the year above me in St Ninian's and Kirkintilloch,
right,
and the year above me in Croy School before that. But we all went into the same year. We all went into second year.
Yeah.
At the Blairs.
Right. Very good. And who was the rector?
The rector at that time was Stephen McGill, later to be bishop. In fact, while we were there, he was made bishop. And then after him came, from memory, it was Frank Thompson. And he was there when I left.
And what was your impression of the rectors in your time there?
My impression of Stephen McGill was a kind of grandfather figure, and a friendly figure, and I was quite impressed with that. Bishop Thompson, who followed him then, I'm sure it was Frank Thompson that followed Stephen McGill. He was a much more, I would have thought, intense, less willing or less ready to burst out in a beaming smile, much more restricted than Stephen McGill was.
Quite austere, I suppose. And was he intimidating? Did you find him intimidating?
Bishop Thompson?
Bishop Thompson eventually becoming rector.
I found him more intimidating than Stephen McGill.
Yes.
I found more Stephen McGill, as I say, as a grandfather figure, more ready smile, and a friendly sort of person.
Who were the other big characters, you know, that made an impression on you from the profs? Our first form teacher was our prof, was Wee Bobby Beattie, as they called him. Felix was his name, but he was known as Wee Bobby. And he was a friendly wee chap.
great storyteller, loved the boxing, and other characters at that time, Danny Boyle, it has to be Danny Boyle, has to get a mention. And I always remember at that stage, now I'm not sure whether I'm talking first year, second year or third year, well, second or third year, but there was one of these inoculations. Now I'm not sure what it was for or against, but we had all to go, and I remember one of the students in our year, and he had expressed to some of us that he was very afraid of needles, and now he'd had his injection, and he was claiming not to feel great. And I always remember Danny Boyle was doing his rounds of the dormitory, where we were all resting after the jab, and we were all resting, and Danny Boyle came in to see this student and said, when the student was expressing illness, and Danny Boyle was saying, "It's not sore, sonny, it's just a pain." And that was typical Danny, you know. It's not sore, it's just a pain.
Very good. And you mentioned, you know, that impression you get, which I think we all probably got. You're standing outside that front door, you know, and the sheer size of the estate. When you think of your time at Blairs, what are the areas that became most special to you, you know, in terms of your favourite areas, you know, whether it be Calgary or up the pitches playing football or whatever, you know, the dorm?
Football pitches had to be. That was the first thing an abiding memory I've expressed it in ways to just family members. The mix, whoever designed this, the mix of academic study and sporting activity, the fact that a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon you could go and play football, that for me was just a joy, you know. And that mix of academic study and sporting events was excellent.
Aye.
And then the second Tuesdays and things like that were just joy.
Yeah. And I guess grass pitches at that time as well in Blairs, as opposed to the ash pitches that we were all brought up in, you know.
We were grass pitches.
Was I guess we didn't really cover this in some of the other interviews. What was your years in terms of your footballing ability? Did you have a good side within your cohort?
We were a small year. At the end of we finished Blairs with a total of 17 students. We were spread-eagled. But I went to Rome from Blairs. And out of the 17, 6 went to Rome, which I don't know if that meant we were bright or whatever it meant. I don't know if it meant anything. But 6 of us went to Rome from the 17. Don't know how many went to Spain, but certainly can think of 2 that did go to Spain. But we were a pretty good team. We were always held our own with, and the crowd the year behind us had a lot of good footballers. A lot of good footballers, and they had maybe 30 odds in the class. But we always held our own, more than held our own against them. And we had just literally the team, and that would be it, you know.
And who was your form master again?
Well, wee Bobby Beattie was the first form master, and then Father Jerry Hill, not Jerry Hill, Jerry Marr. I was just thinking of that other football team because Jerry Hill was in that team. Jerry Marr was the next one, the next form master.
Thinking about your form, do you have any abiding memories of things that you all got up to together? And
Not so much. Lots of things in both forum rooms. The forum masters room. Other abiding memories were the fact that, as I said to you before, we came in and we did the second year, so the class was already there, having completed first year. And as we're getting to know them, they always refer to this one as Big Henry. And Big Henry at that time was, I suppose, Big Henry because he was bigger than the rest of us. But by third year he was wee Henry because we had all passed him by and he was still the same size, you know.
yeah,
So
and quite a tight form group.
yes,
Yeah.
oh yes, we were actually, yeah.
A real
And
distinctive.
gradually as we, I suppose, get smaller because I said to you we finished only 17. But yes, we were always quite a tightly knit group.
What did you enjoy most about your time at Blairs?
I loved my time at Blairs, really, I would have to say. I suppose the sporting mix was good. I liked sport, and I was fairly fit in those days, and I enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed just walking the grounds, or up the bounds, and up. I loved going on the bike when we got to 6th year and you could bring your bike. I loved that too.
Any other sports you played?
Well, I played all sports at Blairs through, and cricket.
Aye.
I can't say I was ever a great aficionado. I mean, there were certain people who just, I can see big faces who loved to sit by the cricket pitch with the books and draw up all these who did what and what overs and all the rest of it. That just didn't really interest me. I didn't mind going out and hitting the ball, but when I could. Or dodging chaps. What was his? Slowy was his name, Alistair Slowy. And he could throw a cricket ball at you when you wanted to run a mile before it got anywhere near your wicket, so that your legs were out of the way of it, you know, before it broke them.
Yeah. And we've been asking the killer questions. What did you make of the food in Blairs? What's your recollections of the food?
Well, I thought since, and I've said since, I wished with bread pudding they'd given you some custard or something to go with it. It was just so dry, and I was never a dry food person. Other than that, I'll tell you another thought that just come to mind. In fact, my wife is, where were we? I can't even remember who said this, but it was an ex-Blairentian, and we met him in a shop somewhere. Well, I'm talking about within this past 2 months. And he must have recognised me. I didn't recognise him. But he came up to me in the shop and said, "You're James Friel, aren't you?" I says, "That's right." He said, "I remember you from Blairs. I was in Blairs too." He said, "In fact, I was once at your table. You were my divider." He says, "And what impressed me most about you as my divider is that every other table I had been at, the divider gave us all the cabbage and he didn't eat it. But you took your share." He says, "And that always impressed me. That you didn't have to take it, but you took it."
Yeah, good team player. Very good. And did you have any? Did you have any offices when you were in Blairs at all?
Well, in latter stages, I was infirmarian.
Mm-hmm. Can you remember the sister infirmarian that you worked with?
It was a sister infirmarian.
Can you remember her name?
Loyola.
Loyola. I've heard that name.
Yes, I was an infirmarian along with Jimmy Kirby and John from down Dumbarton way. Is it Kearney? And we're up in Blairs recently. Somebody said they saw our initials behind. Was it, what do you call these little dumb waiters? You know?
That's right, there's one in the infirmary. Yeah.
So,
what did the jobs entail as infirmarian in your time?
Well, you had to clear the... I've often thought about that. I don't mean... You had, at what stage, it must have been before breakfast, so you come out of Mass at the end of Mass and go round the dormitories to make sure nobody's lying half dead or whatever, ill in bed. But I don't know what they did with them then. Anyway, go round the dormitories to make sure everybody's up and about or nobody's lying half dead. And then go and check in with Sister Infirmarian. Did you serve them breakfast? I think you probably did. You certainly took away the dregs when they had finished with them and took that and washed it up and dried it and brought it all back to a cupboard somewhere. And I don't know that you had any sort of health duties. Other than saying to the Sister Infirmarian, if 2 or 3 were lying in their bed when you were doing your rounds, there's 2 or 3 in St John's or whatever, not well, and they'll come and see you. They're going to get dressed to come and see you. Other than that, if somebody was ill and didn't want to move, you would tell her where they were, you know.
Yeah, good. And thinking about, you know, special days at Blairs, you know, like feast days and so on, do you have any recollections of those special days where there was always a little bit extra treat or a wee bit more time outside?
The times that stick in memory are times when, let's say, a bishop came and you maybe hadn't had a break for a wee while, and the decana was pressed to go and ask for a play day. And you would go in, as usual, to get your books ready for the classes, whichever you had. And then suddenly the decana would come down and say, announce a play day. And all hell broke loose. And it was great fun. And you knew that within no time at all, there'd be football teams up on the board at the sports room, and you'd be off to play football. And those stuck in the memory. They were, for me, very memorable days, yeah. And other than that, lots of the church services were excellent. And although I was never part of it myself, although I always thought I was not a bad singer, but some of the choirs and some of the things. Now, Donny Renfrew was the first in charge of music when I went, and Ben Donaghy. But I always remember that wee music room in the ground floor where Donny Renfrew would give us music. And I always remember him coming down the road. Now, I don't have no idea what we were singing, but he said, "There's somebody here crooning." And I didn't know what crooning was, other than some famous crooners were in the charts or whatever. And he come down from behind us, and just as he's passing, he shouted, "Friel, it's you! You're crooning! Where did you learn to do that?" I said, "I don't know what crooning is."
Very good.
So, anyway.
And did you take part in any of the performances, you know, over at the theatre, whatever, any of the shows? You get any memories of those?
We did Arsenic Old Lace. We did another one. Romeo Coyer, I'm sure, took Arsenic Old Lace. But that would be in the 6th year, or that sort of stage. But I don't remember practising for other concerts, apart from one. I can't remember what it would be, but the fact that it was Irish dancing, and it was wee Bobby Beattie, so that must have been second, third year round, but that's at a stage. And he picked us out, and I think he picked out half a dozen of us because we were good at football. What connection was, I don't know, other than your feet could move quickly, you know.
Who'd have thought?
So he picked us out, so I get picked out for this Irish dancing. And we had to come up to his room after he had finished lunch, and go up to wee Bobby's room, and he would put on a record, and you had to practice. And he was very light in his feet. As I said earlier, he was very good at the boxing, and he was very interested in boxing. So he was light in his feet. So he expected us to be light in their feet too. So therefore we could Irish dance well. And we appeared down in the theatre at whatever the concert was for, so I presume it was St Patrick's Day.
Precursor to Riverdance.
Sorry?
Precursor to Riverdance. You were there
Something
first.
like that, yeah.
And did you ever get to go out of the college on any expeditions or any trips?
Well, on our feast day, we were St Columba's for, always remember that, 9th of June, St Columba's, just come to my mind. That's, the feast day was always 9th of June. And we got to go on trips to Scala and places like that.
Aye.
I always remember, I'm just thinking of it now, and wondering why I didn't go or why I didn't get. Don't think it was for any wrong reason, it must have been involved in something else. But Dunnottar Castle, and they went to Dunnottar Castle, and I always remember when they got back, what was it like? And they all thought this was a majestic place. And I thought to myself, oh, I wish I had been able to go. But I wasn't able to go.
Mm-hmm. And after Blairs, you went to Rome?
After Blairs, I went to Rome.
How many years were you in Rome?
I was in Rome to end of philosophy. So that was 3.
3 years, yeah.
3 years.
And then you left, and then you went into the legal profession.
Yes.
I understand. So if you were to reflect on your time at Blairs, I guess, is there anything you would pick out that Blairs gave you that you know shaped your future career and your future life?
Oh, I think a very much more rounded personality than I would have had at school. I was very much more aware of the impact of decisions you made or things you did would have on other people, because you were living with the other people. You weren't living with them, or I wouldn't have been living with them at school. For example, the school I went to, St Ninian's Kirkintilloch, I wouldn't have had the same experience as I had at Blairs. Blairs, I think, made you much more rounded, made you much more aware of other people, organised you a bit. Now, in later life, that would help a lot. I'm trying to think of in what way Blairs helped you to organise yourself a bit, but it did, you know. And for me, it would have done much more so than schools outside would have done. But yes, I felt Blairs had a very positive impact on me in later life.
Anything you can recall that you would put in the kind of a negative box that perhaps just a niggle at the back of your mind?
No, not really. Other than custard with my bread pud.
I think we definitely need to capture that for posterity. Custard. Very pleased to say that by the time the 80s came, well, I think we did end up with custard.
Oh, did
so
you?
So your feedback was received and acted upon, sir. You mentioned meeting a Blairentian, which I think all of us have at some point. You can be somewhere in the world and all of a sudden a Blairentian or a Blairs connection comes up. If someone was aware of Blairs who'd not been to Blairs and said to you, "Oh, what was it like?" how would you sum it up?
Well, I think the first thing I'd come to is what I mentioned earlier was the mix of sporting and academic in the course of your weekly business. I thought that was excellent. Maybe just because I love sport, maybe some other people who didn't like sport as much would have felt differently. But I thought that was first class. I thought the mix was excellent. I thought things like the odd day off, play day as we called them, because something happened or somebody was visiting or whatever, and you got a play day. And in the main, when that was totally unexpected, you thought it was another academic day or classes, and suddenly somebody told you, "You're off today, you can go and do whatever you like, you can play football, you can go for walks, you can go whatever." I thought that was excellent. And it burst into the academic week excellently for me. But the other, I don't know who decided on the second Tuesdays or when that was always in existence, but the second Tuesday holiday was another excellent idea. Now, I don't know, do we know where it came from?
And certainly by the time we had gone, that wasn't a thing. We were Tuesday, Thursday was still half day, and then all out in the afternoon. Everybody out of the college, nobody allowed to stay in unless you were ill. But the second Tuesday had disappeared by our time.
Oh, right.
Like that.
19th century.
Incredible, isn't it?
The second Tuesday was, you always knew it was second Tuesday.
We'd be a
So
lot
it's a
better for
holiday.
having had second Tuesday. We've missed out on something here. I asked you towards the start how you felt, a young laddie standing in front of that door, on your first day. Do you remember how you felt when you left that door for the last time as a student?
I kind of knew it wouldn't be the last time of you. I knew I'd be back. I didn't know what as, was a lay person, as a priest or a what. I didn't know. I was going to Rome. I knew you were going. But I knew I'd be back in Blairs somehow or other. I would see the place again. And then friends of Blairs made sure that happened, really,
Do you still get that feeling when you go up the driveway?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely astonishing, the mark that it leaves on you. It really is.
And I thought, when I saw it, I only read it once, I don't know. No, I think it was our must have been our 6th year, where, or would it be 6th year, when Lang Bank was being prepared for opening, because I think some of our people went down, students, went down to assist, and it was Donny Renfrew from memory. Went down to assist setting the place up. And I was never there, never visited, never had any great rush to see the place. But as I said, I knew I would be back in Blairs. I knew I would see Blairs again. So that was a sort of heartstring, I suppose. I don't know.
And when you look back in your time in Blairs, and you know the laddie that went to see the parish priest, I want to be a priest and so on. Did you feel it helped you along that journey to make your decision? I know that you then went to senior seminary, but do you feel Blairs fulfilled its purpose for you from that perspective?
Yes, I did. I thought it did for me. It helped develop me in ways that, as I say, I don't think I would have got elsewhere. But I think the other aspect of that I've not thought through was in one of the pieces of paper that I saw just on a screen. It said, "Do you think its closure was inevitable?" And I've never thought that its closure was inevitable. But that's maybe the heartstring. So again, because as I say, I thought it did nothing but good for me.
And it's funny that, Jim, because obviously myself and Paul are here today, we were there when it did close.
Right.
And I think when I think back to the 16-year-old me hearing the news that it was closing, it was a shock. But I think by the time I get down the road, I thought, actually, that was coming a mile away. Right. It's incredible how that passage of time, changes your view and so on.
Yes.
But mercifully, in the interim period from when you were there to we were there was an awful lot of people that benefited, the same as you've expressed today. And I guess before we finish, is there anything else that you think we've missed that you would maybe want to cover and share?
No, I would just like to reinforce, I don't think it did anything but good for me, and I think it did for lots of people round about my age group.
Aye. Well, listen, it's been terrific speaking with you. Thanks for sharing what you've shared with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And I have to say, sitting here, we're seeing different generations of Blairentians here as well. I actually feel really quite honoured to be amongst a band of brothers that have had very similar experiences, yet through different eras.
Oh, thank you.
And
we might have lived there for 5 years, but I had no idea what a second Tuesday was, and I don't know what daily life was like. We got woke up by probably a member of staff running up and down with a huge big bell. It was never the most pleasant way to wake up. I mean, what was a normal day like?
A normal day was get up in the morning, Benedicamus Domino, woke up going, wash your face, share a sink with somebody, go down to church, and if you were serving some masses either in the cloisters or up in the tower at Danny Boyle's place, and then breakfast, porridge or cornflakes, and a piece of cornflakes. And then
we knew that was going to come up.
Then out to the Pale Court, back to get your books, back to the classroom, and we had memorable teachers for me, but Wee Bobby, when you had Wee Bobby, was Wee Bobby Beattie. excellent, good fun. Tam McGurk, a very serious person on the face of it, but he wasn't a very serious person. He was really, he was quite a funny person. Big Jim Friel from Blairentian, he taught me French, and I've met his brother since then on more than one occasion, who happened to be in my class at St Ninian's, Kirkintilloch. It was the odd name that there were 3 of us in that class, unrelated to one another, but 3 Friels in the class, with no connection, and no family connection. But yes,
Did you do any cleaning duties?
Did you have to sweep the corridors and
oh,
so on?
he swept the corridors, yes, he did. I'm forgetting about the main corridor.
the
And
green
I
washed.
would thought you were getting away with
Or
it.
the,
Oh, no.
the red stairs or the green
washed it at
stairs?
Christmas time and some other time. Pails of water.
Aye.
And down with those big brushes,
Yeah.
and swept the main corridor and that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We did. It wasn't. We weren't. We weren't entrusted with water, but it was every morning. Main corridor.
Oh, you had
stairs,
to sweep.
both staircases
No,
and
I've
so on,
forgotten
aye.
about that. But yeah, we
Yeah.
did sweeping
Yeah.
and
Cleaning
washing.
up after dinner or any meal?
No.
No. So we could clear
So
that duty.
did you not have kitchen duties or anything like that in your
No.
day?
The sisters did that. You piled them up.
Right. Well,
You
by
piled
the
it up at the end of the table, but you didn't have to take them anywhere. Well, I was never involved in taking it anywhere.
tune in for future episodes to hear about kitchen duties.
So when I get married, you'll be hearing about expertise in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Oh, and no, we piled them up. But other than that, we didn't.
Any recollections of warm milk? Or did you get your milk straight from the farm?
I don't know where it came from. But
Well,
it
there
would come
were
from
certainly
the farm.
occasions when we were there where
We started it with
the milk had not really been pasteurised at that point in time.
That's when the law changed.
Yeah.
Oh, right, no, I didn't. I didn't notice any difference with the milk.
Yeah. So there we go. That was great. Absolutely terrific, Jim. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you so
I hope
much.
it's, some
Well,
use.
listen, this is